Welcome to another week of Think on These Things. Pastor Bartlett will speak to us on the topic,
The furnace of Christian suffering. 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 12 to 14. Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened unto you. But rejoice, inasmuch as ye are partakers of Christ's sufferings, that when his glory shall be revealed, ye may be glad also with exceeding joy. If ye be reproached for the name of Christ, happy are ye, for the Spirit of glory and of God resteth upon you. On their part he is evil spoken of, but on your part he is glorified. The writer of this epistle identifies himself in chapter 1, verse 1 as Peter, an apostle of Jesus Christ. His given name was Simon, but Jesus changed it to Peter, which means a stone. Peter and Paul were the two leading apostles in the early church. Paul was assigned especially to minister to the Gentiles, and Peter was primarily the apostle to the Jews. In Luke 22:32, the Lord commanded Peter to strengthen his brethren. And in John 21:15 to 17, he instructed him to feed his flock. In writing this letter, Peter was fulfilling the ministry that the Lord had given to him. In chapter 5, verse 13, Peter stated that he wrote this letter from Babylon. There is no evidence, either from church history or tradition, that Peter ever ministered in ancient Babylon. It is likely that the name Babylon is used by him as a reference to the city of Rome. We do have reason to believe that Peter ministered in Rome and was probably martyred there. It was not unusual for the persecuted believers during those days to write or speak in coded language. In chapter 1, verse 1, we are informed that this letter was written to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. The word strangers is the translation of a Greek word which was used by the writers of the New Testament to refer to the people of a heathen city. The word, as it is used here, describes the persons to whom Peter was writing as believers who had settled down alongside of the unsaved. Peter uses the same word again in chapter 2, verse 11. He writes, "Dearly beloved, I beseech you as strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts which war against the soul." Peter does not want the persons to whom he is writing to forget that they were living among pagans who were always observing them carefully. Brothers and sisters, we too must always bear in mind that we are living among unsaved persons, and these unsaved persons are watching us very carefully. Because we are strangers in the world, we are considered to be strange in the eyes of the people of the world. Peter emphasizes this in 1 Peter 4, 3-4. You have had enough in the past of the evil things that godless people enjoy, their immorality and lust, their feasting and drunkenness and wild parties, and their terrible worship of idols. Of course, your former friends are surprised when you no longer plunge into the flood of wild and destructive things they do. So they slander you. New Living Translation. Believers have standards and values which are markedly different from those of the world, and this gives opportunity for both witness and warfare. We will discover in this epistle that some of the believers were experiencing suffering because their lifestyle was so different from the lifestyle of the pagans among whom they lived. Peter says that these believers were not only a strange people, but they were also a scattered people. The word scattered is a translation of the Greek word diaspora, which was a technical term for the Jews who lived outside of Palestine. It is used in this way in John 7:35 and James 1:1. Peter uses it here in the same way. This indicates that the recipients of his letter were primarily believing Jews. The scattering of the Jews referred to in 1 Peter took place before the worldwide dispersion of the Jews, which occurred in AD 70. This dispersion was the result of the judgment of God upon the apostasy of Israel. The great majority of the Jews living outside of Palestine in the 1st century, before AD 70, were living where they were by their own choice. The chief reason for this was the opportunity for business activity which the Gentile centers of population afforded. The believing Jews to whom Peter was writing were scattered in 5 different parts of the Roman Empire, all of them in northern Asia Minor, which is modern Turkey. They were living in this region when the Christian missionaries evangelized them. These Jews were living in this region as a result of the providence of God. This application can be made to all believers. We are all providentially placed by God in the midst of the unsaved, living in Satan's territory, for he is the God of the world system. It is our responsibility to be salt and light among them and to exert a godly influence upon them.
Christians are not to be bunkered down, hidden among ourselves and isolated from the world. Rather, we are providentially spread apart as the light of the world, a city on a hill that cannot be hid, to be a candle put on a stand and not hidden, so that all who are around us may see our light. How does it change your thinking to know that where you are geographically is a result of the providence of God? Test whether or not you are being a light by reflecting on when was the last time your Christian walk was an occasion for witnessing or warfare. Until next time, think on these things.